that it needs to be direct and concise language, that you need to like take a point and you need to say why you're arguing that, and then like talk about possible objections.
Okay. Yeah, you've hit on the two most important things. One, keep it short. Two, hit on possible objections. The biggest mistakes that people make is that when they are making an argument for their writing sample, they ignore the inconvenient facts. So what they've done here, if you look on page 346, you'll see you're given an argument, and in all of these arguments, someone is trying to, it's not an argument, it's like a situation. Someone is trying to make a decision between two choices. In this case, they say Karen Dalton, the CEO and founder of a successful company, is deciding whether to remain CEO of the company or to step down to run for political office. Using the facts below, write an essay in which you argue for one option over the other based on the following criteria. The way they write this criteria, it's a 50-50 shot, right? It's not going to be like, oh, obviously she should stay CEO. Obviously she should run for political office. But what you want to do is pick one and then read through the facts and come up with pros and cons for both positions, right? And then make a decision. And I would, on the scratch paper, write down the pros and cons. I would just brainstorm and then circle the 3 best pros and the 3 best cons. And then I would make my my essay 4 paragraphs. I know that sounds a little regimented. It doesn't have to be 4. It could be 5, it could be 6, whatever. But in general, I think you can do it in 4. The first paragraph would be Karen, or the CEO, should remain as CEO. Done. You don't need to say anything else. You're just saying what your position is. Or
But
Karen,
that's one sentence.
it's 1 sentence, next paragraph.
Okay.
Because they're asking you make a choice, right, and argue for it. And so you don't need to hide the ball here. And so I've seen some people say, like, well, for a long time I've been involved with companies, blah, blah. It's like, we don't need that. We need to know what your position is and why. And so then the next paragraph would be something like, first, comma, and then I would give my main reason why she should remain CEO. And then in that paragraph, I would address problems related to that premise.
Is it a good idea to do that typical on the first paragraph? These are the 3 reasons, and then talk about them in each paragraph, or is that too?
You could if you wanted to. I think it's such a straightforward argument that I don't think it necessarily needs that much structure. But it's not like there's a rule here.
Okay.
What you are doing, though, by stating it up front is something that a lot of lawyers don't do, bad lawyers. They try to, say, oh, well, it's hard, it's complicated, the situation is tough. You just want to come out there and say what should happen. And then in that paragraph, I would address weaknesses related to that premise. So, for example, if the main reason she should stay is because it will be best for her career or something, there are going to be drawbacks. And the easiest way to address them is just to say, although this will mean that she is forfeiting the opportunity to run for office at this particularly opportune time or whatever, this will set her up for another run down the road. Who knows? Whatever it is. You got to address the weakness and then counter it. The easiest way to do that is with an although sentence. So then you have first sentence, what your point is. Second paragraph is your first reason. Third paragraph is your second reason. And third paragraph is your last reason. If you want more reasons, add more paragraphs. But the thing here is that if you stick to that, it's pretty straightforward what you're arguing for. The other thing is, sometimes people ask, well, should I end with a conclusion? I don't think you really need to, because your conclusion was your first paragraph. This is what she should do, and I think it's pretty obvious what your conclusion is. But if you feel better summarizing it all, just say, for these reasons, she should stay as CEO, or whatever. Really, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I'd worry more about keeping it short and keeping it to the point, and making sure to address weaknesses. If you do that, it will be a good argument. It's the weirdest part of the section or the test because they give you scratch paper.
Should you wait to bring in the weaknesses until the last paragraph, or just like come up with a weakness for each reason?
No, I would do it throughout
Okay.
so that you can rebut them, so that you don't end on a sort of negative note, you know?
Yeah.
If it doesn't make sense to weave a certain thing into a paragraph, just create a new paragraph for that issue. Doesn't matter. Usually though, it relates to something. Like there's some drawback that's directly tied to some reason that you're making. If you want to, if you want to practice this, I would only do it for one of these writing samples. You don't need to do more than that. And just email it to me if you want to go even further. I can tell you what I think about it. But other than that, I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time on it. Any other questions?
And
Okay.
did you say that
Yeah.
we should point out a weakness on every paragraph or not?
Yeah, usually there's a lot. There's gonna be like 6 or 7 weaknesses, and there's gonna be 6 or 7 reasons why your position is right, and 6 or 7 why they're wrong. We're just choosing the 3 or 4 best ones to talk about. So really, you should have a weakness addressed every paragraph. If you don't address weaknesses, that many weaknesses, if you only address 1 or 2, they're gonna think you just kind of ignored them. You got to think about the best argument against your position and go after that. You don't want to be shy here. Sound good?